He's the fifth of 10 children. His parents were John D. Bronson, the son of a prominent doctor in Warren, and his mother was Elnita Jackson. Mr. Bronson attended the School of the Ozarks at Point Lookout, Missouri in 1970 and received an AA associate degree from Shorter College in North Little Rock in 1972. He was the valedictorian and class president. He was the recipient of a Ford Foundation Scholarship in 1972 and received a bachelor's of arts degree from Philander Smith College in Little Rock, Arkansas in 1976, where he was a member of the Phi Beta Sigma fraternity. After graduation, Mr. Bronson began his professional career as a counselor with the Equal Opportunity Agency of Pulaski County. He currently serves as the Area Workforce Director for the Central Arkansas Planning and Development District in North Little Rock, Arkansas, where he oversees regions, programs, operations in 6 counties. He received the Spirit of the Watershed Award in 2007 and the Portrait of Service Award in 2008 for his professional and community service. Mr. Bronson has contributed to numerous news programs for KATV, KTHV, KARK, and Fox 16 News. In Little Rock, that focus on summer jobs, and also dislocated workers and disaster relief. He was most recently featured in the news article "This Team for Hire" in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Mr. Bronson is also the president of the Shorter College Alumni Association. And we have with us today several members of the Alumni Association. Will you stand or raise your hand? And as you know, yours truly is also an alumni and director of alumni services. Mr. Bronson has also brought some important information for you. You might be able to, as you're leaving the chapel, stop at the tables and you will be able to pick up a brochure or announcements and just get them until they are all gone. So after the selection, the next voice you'll hear will be Mr. John Bronson Jr. Give him a hand.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, how about that choir?
All right.
It is good to see all of you here, and I am certainly glad to be here with you this morning. My name is John Brunson Jr. As I was introduced, some of the things that were said, I think I probably don't even remember, but I guess I'll have to live up to them. You know, your reputation precedes you. Whatever your reputation is, that's who you are. To President Green in his absence, Reverend Williams, to the faculty, guests, students, family, fellow alumni, and friends. It is great to be here with you today. It's great to see all of you. The other Shorter College alumni in the room will probably be able to echo what I'm about to say. Today, there are just three things that I want to share with you. First of all, you need to remember where you came from.
Amen.
Number two, you need to acknowledge those who helped you to become whatever you are today. And the third thing is, try to do for others what somebody has done for you. Remember where you came from. I was talking to Reverend Williams, who asked me to be the speaker today, and I began to think about how far we had came. And I had to remember where I came from. If I think about how far I have came, I'm not even supposed to be here today. I'm from Warren, Arkansas, population 7,500. My mother had 10 children, as was mentioned in the introduction, and she raised 8 children as a single parent. 2 of her children died as infants. When I was 11 years old, our house caught fire while we were asleep. But by the grace of God and my big brother, who was only 14 at the time, we all got out alive. After our house burned down, we moved in with my grandmother, who lived in a shotgun house down a dirt road with no indoor plumbing. So how many of you know what a shotgun house is? I didn't think of many answers on it. Okay. So in that shotgun house, my mother, her 7 children, my grandmother, and my uncle. That's how many people. 10 people lived in that shotgun house, which had a front room, it had a bedroom, and it had a kitchen. Now, I still don't know where all of us slept, but somehow we found a way to sleep every night. When I was 12 years old, I almost drowned by trying to learn how to swim in the neighborhood lake. As many of you probably know, back in the good old days, and this was back in the 60s, there wasn't a public pool for some of us to swim in. So we had to swim in the lake, which had snakes, frogs, and fish. It's probably why I didn't learn how to swim today. But I fell in one day, and my older brother, the same brother who ran back in the burning house and saved my other brother, dove in and saved me. Now, if it wasn't for my brother, once again, I wouldn't be here today. But by the grace of God, he gave him that power and that strength, and he was able to dive in and save me. Now, he was only 14, but he became my hero. Once again, I was able to see another day. Our family never owned a car, but I found out that if the Boswells down the street had a car, then we had a car. If the Boswells down the street went to the store, guess what? We went to the store. Back then, people cared about each other. And hopefully, some of that is still happening today, but I don't think enough of it is. We did not forget where we came from. When I graduated from high school, I was lucky enough to get a scholarship, as we mentioned, to attend the School of those Arts in Missouri. But after 3 weeks, I was so homesick, I called my mom and said, "Can I come back home?" And guess what she said?
Come on.
She said, "Come on." So I left, moved back home. That was a transition in my life because I thought I made a mistake. I had a brother who was attending Shorter College at the time. He had just completed his first year. This was during the summer. So he asked me if I wanted to come up and stay with him during the summer. So I did. Came up, spent the summer with my brother. We didn't have dormitories like you guys don't. We lived in houses. You know where the library is? There were houses across the street that we lived in. And one of our favorite drinks was Kool-Aid. We could never get enough Kool-Aid. I came up, spent the summer with my brother. Still his favorite? All right. I came up, spent the summer with my brother, and enrolled in school during the fall. So that's how I wound up at Shorter College. After I enrolled in school at the fall, long story short, I graduated from Shorter College in 1972 as a class president and valedictorian of my class. I was awarded a Ford Foundation Scholarship. I attended Philander Smith College, graduated from there, and started my career as a counselor with the Economic Opportunity Agency in Little Rock. Now I serve as the area director for the workforce area that serves Central Arkansas, which is comprised of 6 counties. But God be the glory. From a shotgun house on the dirt road, no indoor plumbing, He took a nobody like me and made me somebody. We can never forget where we came from. All right, I'm about to sit down now. Number 2, acknowledge those who help you to become whatever you are. When people bless you, teachers, coaches, relatives, people who you look up to, you need to acknowledge them at some point in your life. When I was asked to speak today, I thought about my high school basketball coach. His name was Coach Middleton. Now, I can remember this. When integration came to Warren in 1970, Coach Middleton was not good enough to coach at the new high school. Now, he won championships at the all-black school, but for some reason, he was not good enough to coach at the newly integrated high school. So what did he do? He took a job coaching at the junior high school. And by the grace of God, he was able to touch lives even at that level. Now, that was back in 1970. But God fixed it, though he was able to continue to touch lives, and he's still touching lives even today. He had the right attitude and the humble spirit to keep going, regardless of what the obstacles were that were put in front of him, what doors were shut. He didn't let that stop him. The spirit of true leadership is the spirit that says you can accomplish more if you don't care who gets the credit. Growing up, we had gangs. I mean, you hear about gangs today. None of us owned a gun or a knife. But watch this, though. Back then, we didn't have cell phones. But we all knew each other's phone number. And no matter what season it was, basketball, baseball, football, we'd call each other up and say, "Hey, Tommy, I'm coming over to play." Get the boys together. Tommy would say, "Hey, come on. We'll be ready for you." And we would get on our little bikes and drive across town, get over whatever season it was. We'd play basketball, baseball, football. Did we argue? Yes, we did. Did we fight? Yes, sir. Did we say some things that we should not have? We sure did. But after it was over, we shook hands and rode our little bikes right back over to outside of town. And that's what our games were. We didn't shoot anybody. We didn't hurt anybody. We were just trying to be like our big brothers and people who we looked up to, people who influenced us along the way. Those were the examples, our heroes, who we were trying to follow. Acknowledge those who helped you to become whatever you are today. If we are lucky, we get a leader like Martin Luther King Jr. or Barack Obama, the first African American president, an accomplishment that most of my generation thought that they would never see. But it happened. Why? Because 40 years before he was elected president, Martin Luther King Jr. left the door open for him. Try to do for others what somebody has done for you. All of you here are looking good today, and I'm sure that you probably got some money in your pocket, you dress good. Got no money in your pocket? Well, Vincent probably everything. I can't. But we've got to find a way to include those who can't afford to do the things that we can. There are people in your life, I know, that would appreciate it if you would extend your hand and include them. An example, every 2 years in my hometown, we have an all-school reunion. All the graduates from all the schools past for the school that's closed come back to celebrate. There are people who come back from all walks of life, all parts of the United States, even out of the country, Chicago, Detroit, Illinois, and they have some stories to tell. But the people right across the street never attend to live in the community. Why? Because they say they can't afford to. So this year, we had the reunion and we invited some of the retired teachers to come back to the reunion. And guess who showed up? Some of those people across the street who said they couldn't attend, they found a way to spend enough money to at least come to the banquet. And I think the reason they came is they wanted to see what some of their old teachers look like. But they showed up. That was one way to get some of the students back who didn't come, is to invite people who they may have wanted to come, who influenced them along the way. That was a successful banquet, and that's something that we'll probably do again next year. So you got to find a way. When we were growing up, every year my uncle would buy me and my brother Christmas presents. I will never forget that. Without fear, every year he would show up with 2 presents in his hand. One for me, one for my brother. He didn't know it at the time, but he was inspiring me to want to give back. And little did I know that by him giving us those presents, he was preparing me to follow in his footsteps. I made it a point when my nieces and nephews were small to always show up at Christmas with a present for them. Not because I felt obligated to do so, but it made me feel good, and hopefully it inspired them to want to do the same. Try to do for others what somebody has done for you. All right, I'm about to sit down now. The world is so big, if we shrink the Earth's population into a village of precisely 100 people, think about this. With all of the existing human ratios remaining the same, the world would look something like this. There would be 57 Asians, 21 Europeans, 14 would be from the Western Hemisphere, both North and South. 8 would be Africans, 52 would be female, 48 would be male. 70 would be non-white, 30 would be white. 70 would be non-Christian, 30 would be Christian. 89 would be heterosexual, 11 would be homosexual. 6 people would possess 59% of the entire world's wealth, and all would be from the United States. 80 would be living in substandard housing, 70 would be unable to read. 50 would suffer from malnutrition, 1 would be near death, 1 would be near birth. 1, yes, only 1, would have a college education. One, only one, but on a computer. If you have food in your refrigerator, clothes on your back, a roof overhead, and a place to sleep, you are richer than 75% of the people in the world. If you woke up this morning with more health than illness, you are more blessed than the million who will not survive this week.
Man.
If you have money in the bank, in your wallet, or spare change in a dish somewhere, you are among the top 8% of the world's wealthy. That's you. All right. If you can attend church without fear of harassment, arrest, torture, or death, you are more blessed than 3 billion people in the world. If you have never experienced the danger of battle, the loneliness of imprisonment, the agony of torture, or the pains of starvation, you are ahead of 500 million people in the world. Think about that. If you can hold someone's hand, hug them, and even touch them on the shoulder and make them feel better, you are blessed because you have the healing touch. If you hold your head with a smile and your face, and you are truly thankful, you are blessed because the majority of us can, but most of us do not. If you can read, you are more blessed than over 2 billion people in the world today who cannot. As you are reminded of how life is in the rest of the world, remember just how blessed you really are. Make every day great. God bless you.
All right, let us stand now for our alma mater, and then we will dismiss. All right? All right. And the alma mater is always printed on the back of your program.
Ooh, you get to see.
I ain't know you.